All right, so welcome everyone to our public Mentoring Stewards call, the first Wednesday of every month. We are open to the public. Invite a friend next time if you'd like, just to kind of gather in and be in this presence of good of the whole and other mentors on the planet who are living for the good of the whole, which is our mission. So I'm going to read, our vision is a world where every individual feels valued, connected, and fully expressed within a unified whole. Slow that down and really feel it. And our mission is to cultivate an ethos of wholeness and nurture our innate capacity to live for the good of the whole. And I just want to start with that phrase because it came through the advisory council at a really beautiful time when we were like creating and looking forward and just listening and being in this space. And all of a sudden, this simple phrase comes through to just, it's just to bless us. It was this amazing moment to nurture our capacity to live for the good of the whole. It was kind of like, we all have that capacity. It's this innate capacity. It's an important part of the awakening on the planet of really understanding wholeness. And so when that came through, we were truly blessed. So with that, I am going to invite Shelley to nurture our innate capacity right now through the practice of resonance. Shelley?
Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julie. Again, I just feel that it's such an honor to be here, to first nurture that, have the opportunity right now to just nurture that within ourselves. And so the invitation really is to just settle fully into your body and this collective body, this relationship that we have with the universal flow. And just simply through breathing, that connection is made, that sense of belonging. And from that place, there is no separation, and that's something to be acknowledged. And this morning, let's just do that for the whole planet. Just really feel that composition of wholeness, that circulatory system, this living, open system that continues in every moment to foster and thrive that which we be and that which we are moving in fulfillment of, our individual missions and our mission as a collective here today. And to really honor that with gratitude and love as we really open to the grace, as Julie was expressing, just opening to the grace of information that's coming through in every moment, and here specifically today. Taking a big collective breath, allowing that energy to circulate and to move out into this circle here today, really honoring each one that's come here, that's standing in their voice and in their love. And with that, I'm complete. Take a breath, coming fully present, and I pass that talking stick back to you, Julie.
It's always hard to break silence when we're there. Thank you, Shelley. That was beautiful. And this is our first Wednesday of the month public call for Mentoring Stewards. We gather in community, and we've done this for Wow. We've done this now for 6 years, I think, on Wednesdays, on the first Wednesday of every month. And now we add every Wednesday for those mentoring stewards to come together. And the purpose of this call is really this in-gathering. And I'm just going to speak into this because I want to offer this as part of our check-in. That the purpose of this call has always been this motion of information and co-creation, so that if you think about that toroidal field that moves in and comes back out and around, and this torus is happening, and this amazing energy field that informs life connected to the unified field of consciousness, we are informed and we inform. And we've been talking about that in the last couple of calls. And thank you, Henry, for hosting the call last week. I haven't watched it yet. I just returned, and with a sick and injured husband, surgery, and like a bunch of stuff. I can share more later if anybody's interested. But this information that moves, this field, this unitive consciousness that is us, that breathes us, that heals us, that co-creates through us, is always been the image that we've had of gathering as global co-creators, as mentors, stewards, as this global transition team that we have here. And we've always seen the information coming in through the field, through this kind of a gathering, bringing it in. So we're sharing, we're being informed, we're knowing what's going on. We know who's doing what, we know, we understand. And then also to put that field back out, put that information back out. So as Linda brings something in, I can go, oh yeah, and I can go seed some real goodness and healthy seeds of consciousness on the planet. I can put that back out in different ways, as we all can, as well as the field does through us. So with that, we're going to do our normal check-in. And I'm just going to ask us, the normal first check-in is usually more brief. We're just saying hello, where you're from, your name, where you're joining us from. And then maybe respond to this in just a brief little way of, let's think of a better way to phrase this. I'm going to say it this way, because I like it in a passive way. How are you being nurtured in your innate capacity to live for the good of the whole? In what ways are you being nurtured today as we're cultivating that innate capacity to live for the good of the whole? A little challenge, maybe not so much of a stretch, because we're all here. So with that, we'll start with our check-ins, and then we'll move into seeing what wants to be shared through the field. So unmute yourself when you want to speak, and then please put yourself back on mute after that.
Oh, this is Kathy. It's my first time, so I don't have anything to compare it to. I guess I'll go first. Kathy Sipple. I'm calling in from Valparaiso, Indiana. And what I'm doing to nurture myself, I am calling today not from my desk. I was kind of having a down day, so I am in my lounging clothes and I'm calling from under the covers in my bed. Might be too much information, but it just felt like what I wanted to do. And I just want to say, Julie, that visual that you just painted, I'm familiar with your graphic, but it's just really resonating with me. I typed something very similar in a group I'm in with Barbara Marks Hubbard's Evolutionary Ambassador Academy that spoke to that very thing about information going out. So I feel like I'm about the information going out. I'm very much a promoter with 30 years of sales and marketing experience. So I'm really particularly tuning in to feed my soul and find out how I can be a part of that. I'm complete.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I have the good fortune to know everyone on this call. So I'd like to say welcome to Kathy. It's very exciting to have another Hoosier here. And the question was, how are we being nurtured? Which is a great way to phrase it, Julie, because I have been nurturing others so much. My granddaughter turned 4 yesterday. So you can imagine all of the festivities around that and just taking care of my family. So thinking of how am I being nurtured, I would say one of the things that's really nurturing my soul has been in the Game Changer Intensive from Pachamama, where both Kathy and Shelley and I, with some other people, are in a group call that is very nurturing, just being in another field. And I realized that everything that I'm doing for the good of the whole is just how I'm living. And the people and the circumstances that come into my life, whether I'm just holding my newborn little granddaughter or my 4-year-old or my friend, that's how I am being nurtured. So the universe is putting all kinds of situations and people and opportunities that are sort of sparking my creative and responsible joy. I'm being nurtured, and thank you all. I'm complete.
Hello, everyone. This is Victoria, and I should be in snowy Connecticut, but I'm not. Instead, I'm in Costa Rica. So I am being nurtured every second here by the nature, nurtured by nature, which is just amazing. Not that there isn't beauty. In Connecticut, I hear we're having snow, so that can be beautiful. But it is beautiful here, and there are monkeys in the trees, and macaw, red, huge macaw birds flying. So that's been wonderful. Same time on Shangri-La here, nothing ever stops because there's some medical emergencies going on back home that are working themselves out with my family. So it's been a very kind of mixed time here, and it's wonderful to feel it all, just what it is. And I'm nurtured by this call. That's why I'm here. I'm nurturing myself right here, right now. And also, I love the word information because we're a form. This is a form, and we are in a form, and we are an information. So we are an information field because we are in. It's such a great word. It came out of somewhere, but we're in a not in a form, but we appear as a form. We appear as a form, and that form brings information. So I just love that word. Okay, good to see everyone.
This is Henry. Good morning, everyone. Just want to acknowledge around 15 minutes ago, it was the actual time of the new moon here. So we're experiencing, perhaps in some way, the new moon energy. The way I'm being nurtured is I feel like in responding to creative ideas that I have and showing up and opening to the energy that is nurturing for me. I also want to share kind of a realization that I had is that implicit within the good of the whole is the good of the parts, and which is expressed in that vision statement. A vision, a world where every individual feels valued and connected and expressed in the fully expressed in the unified whole. So kind of honoring or feeling the unified, the full expression of each of us here and each of us with whom we come in contact with, because we are each a microcosm of that wholeness. And last, I'm still not sure I understand the toroidal field, and I'll have to look up it again to understand it, of going in and going out. But I connected as you were expressing that, Julie, as how synergy works. So we are each individual toroidal fields, information going in and coming out, and that when coming together, there is a synergy that forms, a co-creative synergy that emerges. And just quickly, I was sitting in a kind of a cafe yesterday, and I just realized a lot of time I try to focus on my work at home, and it's kind of a little boring. I was in the cafe. There was just one woman, just a beautiful energy, who was kind of at the counter, another man there, and other people coming in. And I was noticing how I was filled in perhaps the toroidals, the synergy of each person's presence being there. And so anyway, so those are a few things that are nurturing to me.
Good morning, everyone. This is John, Boulder, Colorado. I'm feeling very nurtured, actually. I just spent a week on a little cruise down to Grand Cayman, and the weather was incredible, and it was warm, and of course, sitting on the beach at the ocean is an amazing thing. And then I come back, and the first day back here in Boulder, it was snowy and wet and freezing. We got to snuggle up next to the fireplace and just watch the environment. And then the next day, it was this brilliant sunshine on the fresh snow and the mountains. And so just being in the material world in such a way that the beauty feels so nurturing and heart-opening. And then there's so much other nurturing going on for me around the opening to the information that I'm feeling graced with, and finding the center point of where the information comes in before I am able to offer back out again, and that silent point, which I'd like to talk about a little bit later. That I don't know if anyone has ever heard the term conuncio. I don't know if that word ever existed before. I may be making that up, but I feel like it came from famous family therapist Carl Whitaker, but I'm not sure of that. I searched all his books and I can't find it, so it may have come to me in a dream or whatever. But it's that silent point, that moment of nothingness and everything before it moves out into the reality as we know it. But anyway, loving that space of absolute nothing, everything combined into one. And so we'll talk more about that, but thank you for allowing me to share. And it's really wonderful always to be in this group. So I'm complete for right now. Thanks.
This is Oriana, and I've been nurturing nurturing myself. My voice keeps cutting in and out, so I'm in one of those rare times of being quite contemplative and observing mode and not doing a lot of talking. So I wanted to say, though, in science, that nothing point is that holds everything is the singularity. And it's one of the hardest concepts to understand because the singularity is only one. It's everywhere, it's everything, and it's inside of every proton, and that toroidal field is what's shaping a proton. And so there's much that interfaces with what science knows and physics, and the information is also what is known as science, is information that flows in, also flows back out. And in science, there's such a thing as it's called a Planck star, where the conditions are such that it's coming in and there's a bounce that the information goes out. So I'll have to find out more about how to explain that bounce, because that seems that what we're doing, bringing out the information in collectively, and then there's an impulse to bring it back out. I'm in Tucson, Arizona, where yesterday it was 82 degrees. It's beautiful now. Thank goodness we had snow a couple weeks ago. So that's it for me. I'm complete.
I guess I'll go next. Well, the first thing that came to me was I'm being nurtured by each one of you as hold-ons within the field. I just looked at each one, and Henry, who's just, I feel so nurtured by, who's showing up and supporting the Heart Resonance Council and stepping up, and Kathy, who's supporting me in the relationship between dowsing and selling houses and stepping forward in that, and John, who's coming new energy, bringing this beautiful purity in regards to speaking about resonance, and Victoria, who instilled and always instills just such a deep place of the collective consciousness, really beginning my journey in heart resonance, and Linda, who's just such a joy to play with in all the realms that we play. Yes, the game changer has been a real changer for me, especially last week. Monday, where I had to speak about democracy, the one subject that I had a moderated call on democracy, which was kind of fascinating for me. And Kate, who always brings us back to the earth, and the grandmothers, and thank you. And Oriana, who just is this partner in the inner movement and tracking the energy of love, So, and in each one of your shares, what's been coming up, Julie. I didn't say anything about Julie, because Julie is just my soul partner in living and serving the good of the whole, and a bestie of besties, I'll have to say. So I'm grateful. But the visual that I'm getting is just, really the logo of good of the whole being the flower of life, which is the interconnection of all of the toroidal field as it's moving in living movement. And that, as Oriana was saying, that, where that interconnection point is to me, that is that spark or that bounce where the impulse, sends its frequency back out into the whole. And so I just love how this communion of conversation is always deepening the understanding in so many realms and is so inspiring. So I'm fostered really by all of you. And of course, I have to end with my being nurtured by my celery juice, which is nature in a glass. And with that, I'm complete.
Well, Kate, it's you and me. So I'll go first and then turn it over to you to check in and come back in after you're done. So, in what ways am I being nurtured? I when I asked that question, I have no response here. But last week I do have to say I traveled to John, Victoria. We got all these travelers here and went out to California. Just assuming and expecting sunny California. And it wasn't sunny. I'm used to lower temperatures this time of year in California because I've visited before, but literally we maybe had 1 or 2 hours of sunshine the whole time we were there. It's very cloudy, very misty, rainy, cloudy, foggy. And we just had this fog after fog. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous, but not a lot of sunshine. So it was a little chilly. So this is how I was nurtured. I was nurtured by creation and the impulse of creation pulling us out. I had a massage on one day, and the masseuse said, we were staying on a gorgeous resort in Pebble Beach, and the masseuse said, take the 17-mile drive. If you've never been up that way, there's the 17-mile drive. It's incredible. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. And she said, and then go 26 miles past it. Just start driving for 26 miles south on the coastline. And I'm always game for adventure, and the weather was this way. My husband wasn't feeling good, and he's like, let's go take that drive. Let's just go. Let's take the drive. So literally we drove on the coastline from Pebble Beach down to Big Sur. It was so amazing and so beautiful. And, moving from the idea of those gorgeous sandy beaches we love to be on to really coming into the energy of the mountains meeting the ocean, not the beaches meeting the ocean. So we were really in higher elevation on this resort, which we weren't used to, but literally went clear up into mountains and ocean. And it was incredible. I felt extremely nourished. I went into that place of information coming in. The ocean was teaching me. The mountains were teaching me. The trees were teaching me. The waves, the way the tide came in. It was really incredible. I had a beautiful experience. And my husband was such a good trooper. I'd be like, oh, pull over. I got to get out here. And he would pull over and I'd get out and just commune with nature. It was incredible. And then one of my highlights was we went to Big Sur and through Big Sur and then decided, okay, we'll go back now. We could have drove. I think we could have drove to San Diego. He was so game. He was happy driving the car, my husband, and we could have drove to San Diego. Obviously, that would be very far. But we turned around and we had driven by an art gallery on the edge of Big Sur. And it had an incredible outdoor garden area and outdoor, please pull over. And I don't know how long we spent there, but I just have to say, again, I was being nurtured. And again, the way the whole was working in this gallery was absolutely stunning. It started with 11 family members who showed, they invited in 11 more. But the whole gallery was so cohesive and coherent in all of the expressions and the forms. And it was so stunning. And it was in an incredible building that was designed to be this art gallery with glass floors, with mirrors that show the architecture through and create an exhibit of their own. It was so stunning. And I was intoxicated and informed again, like just so nurtured about seeing the mechanics and the workings of the whole through that experience too. And so grateful for both of those experiences, nature and art, informing and nurturing me. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kate for her check-in, and I'm complete.
Who could just say what profound, I nurture myself by looking out and observing the world and seeing where I feel like the most profound change agents are. And I tune into them and I see what they're saying and I see how can I add to that potentiality. And you know what's so interesting to me is I was getting that, you know, I lost my mom. It's been a year now. Mom left last day of February last year. And so I was kind of, you know, I'd been traveling and everything that all my volunteer work and things that I had kind of solidified here. I went down and lived with her for a while. And, you know, everything got loose ends and I was tuning into everything from this humanities team to this peace conference. And, you know, I was just scattered all over the place. And so in an effort to self-nurture, isn't it always a self-nurturing process? I mean, that's what we do to nurture ourselves is we adopt new variations of, you know, what it is we do with our time and our hands and our talents at any given time to, you know, what is it we're doing to serve? Because ultimately, after looking around, you kind of think that as someone is speaking, it's really hard to improve on silence. And as you tap into the multiple moment, with the multiple layers that make up the moment and the information therein, you know, that's just kind of enough for me. And so I guess that in a nutshell, that's what I'm doing to nurture myself, is seeing what I can do to be my fullest self-expression. Well, at the same time, you know, my rules are it has to be fun. I worked a lot in my younger day. I didn't really know how to socialize. I could talk to rocks and trees until I took a Barbara Marx Hubbard class in 2009 that I even began speaking to people because I really had nothing in common with anyone. And now I just, I just took out my mail today, and my dear friend Bunny, who at the co-create, which here's another interesting, if we're talking about realizations a little bit, I've always wanted to say, oh, it's this work. You know, if you listen to Julie Kroll and Shelley Darling, I'm telling you, we can get there. If you listen to the film of the grandmothers, you know, Susan Green, you hear Bunny's work. It's always, if you just tune into that, didn't you hear that guy that Julie interviewed about that young man on the peace thing? I mean, I thought he was the answer for a week, you know. It's I'm so vacillating. Anyway, Bunny did send me a new CD that's called Spirit Journey, and she writes, the beautiful mystery of personal transformation from true life lessons dreamed into song. And of course, isn't that what we all do in our own expression, whether it's a book, whether it's a song, whether it's it's music. But what I need to express here today is that I've honed it down now to 2 groups. So I'm looking all over, right? And I decide there's 2 groups that I'm going to support and give my energy to. And they happen to be Good of the Whole and Milagro World Center. Well, I discovered that y'all started together. And that's kind of what blows me away now, because and as Shelley knows, I got on a few weeks ago and I said, I'm not here every week because Nina has this council call and it's at the same time. And I said to her, why, what are you doing making me? So I'm here to report that she's changing the time of that call so that those of us who, because I know Victoria and Karen Frank, there's several people I see at both places, you know. There's several of us that support you both. I'm not alone in this, process of this is who I love to support. Anyway, so I should be on that call because they want me on that call, but I said, no, it's my week to show up here. And I knew it was Victoria. And I just so love what you're doing. And then the words I heard when I tuned in today were the global transition team. And as I hear your mastery and expression and just where we're at, the toroidal fields and the incorporation of the toroidal fields, and I just feel almost like we're this information is that we're kind of on this new dimensional formation that is coming together imaginal cell wise. I think, kind of, you can't make it happen. I can't say, Oriana, I'm going to hook you up with this gal, but between the two of you, because I can't tell you, Julie Crow, I'm sure there's probably several of you on this call that I've told you, wow, if the world could just hear your voice, you are the voice of reason in the free world, things would, be different. And I feel that so much. So I just know this new story that is emerging through the reality of who we all are is just beautiful and undeniable. And the truth is setting us free. And every rock and stone is going to sing. And somehow all of those biblical words and scientific words are going to merge into this beautiful new song. And I feel like I tuned into the Global Transition team today, and I thank you all for listening. And I nurture myself by hearing you and then joining you. So loving you all, returning the talking feather.
Thank you, Kate. That was a perfect segue into what I was hearing to emerge. So thank you for all of that, because we are this global transition team, and we are global transition specialists. I've been trying to define it for Henry in my mind for months. Like, what is this mentoring steward thing? And we are like the global transition specialist here. But I have a story that I want to share, and I'm going to use that term, so don't go give that one away, because we're going to use it here at Good of the Whole, I think. But almost everything that we share is to go give away in the world, right? And this is why I want to bring up this topic, because I was in California this last week, and I met a woman there a year ago, and she's a registered nurse, works in a nursing home. And we saw each other in the airport in Phoenix. We all landed in Phoenix before we went on to Monterey. And she said, now, what do you do again? And it was a fascinating conversation, because she was asking me, and we were talking while a man was sitting across. We were on like a bar type thing with our plane was delayed. And this guy was sitting here, and he was doing like a incredible, huge senior living project, like incredibly huge, like insanely huge. So he's sitting there, and he's tuning into what she was saying about senior living, and he heard what I was saying. So I was having this conversation with her, and so he started asking me questions. And it literally was about the topic of what's going on the planet right now, right? This transition, the evolution of consciousness, what's happening, and yada, yada, yada. So I'm going to leap forward and go to the next day. We're at the resort, and we're in the lobby, chilling, socializing. And she comes up to me and she says, what do you do again? I was trying to tell Greg, and I just don't get it. I just don't understand it. Well, the guy across from us was like on fire. Oh, question, 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 question. He was totally getting it and didn't know he get it. He was like that enthusiasm of Kate right now. Like, yes, if only everybody could hear this, they'd get it. They'd wake up. So he was like, oh, cool. And she was, I really don't understand. I don't know how to even explain it to Greg. So I breathed through that moment, and I'm like, okay, this is an important lesson and an important piece for me and for Good of the Whole as we move forward, and for all of us in our work in the world, is how do we explain it? And this benevolent moment comes forward. She's a nurse. So I can talk about wholeness, right? I can talk about healing and to be whole, and what that means in the body, and compare it to the planet. And I could use all these beautiful metaphors about our wholeness. And she's like, oh, like, finally, we're going to do this. Like, she was so liberated by putting it into the medical field and that language and understanding it from wholeness in the medical realm, holistic health or whatever. And I always say it's not holistic health, it's holistic health on steroids, it's way beyond holistic health. But so I'm just going to open this up for the last 15 minutes or so. And John kind of wanted to talk about that still point, but I'm just wondering, as we're looking at that information coming in and going back out, we're all these agents of this global transition. What is helpful to you when you are talking and communicating with others who don't have the same awareness yet? What's been helpful for you? How do you share that information? What works? What doesn't work? And hopefully my story of just connecting with her and going, oh, ding, 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 she's a nurse. Let me put it into her domain. But there are so many out there, and this is our work in the world, right? Is to begin to speak truth with clarity and really help people understand wholeness and be those agents of wholeness in the world. So I'm going to open it up. I see a few maybe reaching for their microphone. I'm on mute.
You want to go ahead, Henry?
Why don't you go, Kathy, and I'll go.
Okay. Well, I have had in my mind for a couple of years this phrase that came to me during a vision board workshop, like social permaculture. I am a student of agricultural permaculture, but I really love the people systems. And so I think that area of overlap, we call it kindergarten, which is a garden of children, but I find that using agricultural metaphors or gardening metaphors kind of helps people get it. And when you said sowing the seeds, I think that was you, Julie, or maybe it was Shelley. It was like, there you go with the agricultural metaphor. But I think everybody can kind of relate to nature. And I definitely feel like Kate, talking to rocks and stones, I do that too. But everybody can kind of think about a growth cycle. And I was thinking right before I popped on the call, I think I'm sort of like the spiritual idea incubator. I really feel a strong connection with what Kate says. Like I hear so many things, like if you could just hear this, if you could just see this. And I feel like when I put it into that gardening metaphor, that really helps. I mean, I created my whole Co-Thrive logo around that with the three sisters, the corn, beans, and squash, how planted together, they all thrive better. They co-thrive. And my logo has two little worms as sort of a caduceus symbol, because they're the ones that are doing the slow, small actions every day to give us better soil. Because if we don't have the good soil, all of these seeds of ideas get really lost. And so, it came to my mind the other day when I was on a group with some people from Humanities Team. I was saying, it's like Barbara Marx Hubbard has the fifth sacred thing, the spirit, but that requires, earth, like I just mentioned, water. People need to nurture that idea with, the life-giving water, the rays of the sun. We need sun to shine on it. And me, Chatty Cathy, I feel like I have the gift of gab, and I want to talk those ideas and bring them out into the world through podcasting and other, mediums. I'm complete.
What I was going to say, though, came to mind to your inquiry, Julie, was actually something that John expressed at one of the resonance calls of moving in his psychotherapy from content, for listening for content, to opening to resonance, especially at the beginning of connection with another individual. And so I think that is somewhat similar to your example with the woman who was a nurse, that you were coming into a resonance with that person and opening to that person's language. and then through that being able to, you know, first connecting with that person, that individual, and then opening to that. So I feel that's partly the way it is, almost in a certain silence of just opening to the presence of that other person, and then being able to make that connection to serve as a basis. I'm complete.
Thanks, Henry. This is amazing. This call's going to end at what, midnight tonight? That would be really good if we could just keep hanging in here. I had an amazing experience in when I was down in St. Petersburg last week. Went to the Salvador Dali Museum, and I've always been a Salvador Dali fan. But to be in the presence of all that work and to find out, bought a book of his writings as well. Now, this man saw the whole in a very different way than most of us, an incredibly creative, off-the-wall, trippy type stuff. But as I sat and I looked at his work, I realized that it is the same inclusive universe that everybody feels. Only in a very magical way. Now, most people don't see the magic in the way they live their lives. They see the restriction, and they see the judgment, and they see the self perpetuation of whatever is coming to them. And I feel like what Henry was talking about and how I am reaching myself and others right now is to connect with a person under the description of life and move into the heart space that is connected, that everybody wants to feel. Everybody wants to feel their own heart space, not only being loved by someone else or what they can provide, but it's like, oh my God, I am opening, I am being seen for who I am in this deep heart space that is the connective. I am the connective receptacle and the giver of this love. Once I realize that I have, that's who I truly am. So that's the most amazing thing. Now I want to say one more thing. But so anyway, that was a revelation. I've been writing like crazy about this connection and sharing. And I use Facebook a lot recently for my writings because I see these things coming in, and then it just trips me into these kind of wonderful places of the heart and offering that back. And then I have started numerous conversations with people because of this. Now, the other thing I want to say is I don't know if anybody remembers or has ever read Itzhak Bentoff's book, Stalking the Wild Pendulum. This came out in like the 70s. He was a self-educated, brilliant consciousness guru, seeker. He wasn't a guru. But his whole thing is that from the point of nothing, everythingness, everything, and it's like the Big Bang, everything explodes out from there, but then it comes back in on itself again to this moment and then comes out again. And this cycle has been going on forever and ever and ever. That is the information and the information that is coming on to, it is available for all of us at all moments. So having said that, I believe for me, the connection between the heart space and the mind space, when it's in its purest form, is at that moment of nothingness, everything without any identification or definition to it whatsoever. And that's the freedom point. Now, when people understand that everyone on the planet, every living thing, every non-living thing, emanates from and returns to that point, including themselves, then there is the realization of no separation. And in that moment, love abounds. And then everything is possible from that moment, from the individual to the group, to the society, to the culture, to living on the planet, to being in the universe. And once people get that then it's like what Julie was saying about, you know, I have a friend, she's a wonderful young woman. She's actually a physicist that does planetary exploration. And when she gets something, she gets this brilliant look on her face. She goes, "Oh, I get it." And that's the moment that I just cherish. And when I listen to all of you that have that, and we take that into the world, I think that's my mission, I think, is to turn that space on. I could go on for hours with all of you, but anyway, I'm complete for now. Thanks.
Well, I could following that. Wow, following that, and actually, what everybody's saying is just so synergistic, cohesive. It's one, it's whole. And the question, Julie's question about how we speak to everybody, I think we're doing it right here, right now, because I think it has to do with that still point that John started off with, that ability to be in that still point. Because when Julie was doing that, I think she had to quiet everything that was coming from her to be looking at someone and seeing what it is that they needed to hear. So that's a hard thing sometimes, you know, for the ego. It just wants to say to someone, "Oh, I know the truth, and this is it." You know? So that's been difficult for me sometimes. And so I just wanted to say that in the Vistar method that we are writing the book about now, when meetings were given, we gave meetings for 15 years, 3 times a week. When meetings were given and people were trained, what we actually asked the leader of the meeting or the facilitator, whatever it's going to be called, the conductor. It's really a conductor. So the conductor of that meeting was asked to take everybody that was going to be in that meeting and just sit down and visualize them. Not to think about them, just literally visualize their form, visualize their face. You know, this has a lot to do with the Steiner kind of healing, Rudolf Steiner with the children, where teachers are asked to just see the child in visual imagery so that that information will come through when it needs to trust. So people would just visualize, like I take all of you, put your name down on paper and sit down and visualize, just see Julie, see Ariana, and just look at you. Now I guess we could do it this way. We didn't have a lot of this kind of media. And then then the meeting was planned, the thread, the topic, the thread. And then when the facilitator leader came to the meeting, what came out of them was like, it was like they could do no wrong. And I don't even know why that happened, but they could do no wrong. When I gave the meetings from that standpoint, everything I said went to every single person as if it was meant for their soul. I mean, it was like direct. And I think it has to do with that still point. I don't know. At that point, we didn't analyze it. We were living it. We were experimenting. We were investigating that field. But, you know, now we could say a lot about it. We could write a commentary about it probably. But it just was, sorry, they're doing something out there. And so I think it has to do with that still point and allowing that what we are knows everything everything that is needed. It knows when, like it knows, and I can't say it, we, I don't know what to say. That still point speaks to anger when anger is needed and discipline is needed and love is needed and compassion needed. It just can do no wrong because it's a field of love, as everybody's saying. So wonderful conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And we are quickly coming up upon the hour. We have 4 minutes. If anybody has something really want to say, I think Linda's raising her hand in a concise way. And I just want you to think, and you could put this into the chat while Linda's talking, if you would be interested in just taking a media type survey, if you're interested in writing articles for blogs and magazine, just tell me that, writing articles for blogs and magazine on wholeness, and doing some co-hosting vlogging, videos, podcasts. If you're interested in audio podcasts, put that in the chat for me too. And Linda, you're on.
I just wanted to bring this together for me for what's been saying, and thank you all. But the seeds, the kindergarten, the finding the language, and it feels that the universe is pulling me towards teaching this to children so that they have an experience of the vocabulary of connecting to everything. They're so easily in that still point, in that space. And I bring this up because Stella's turned 4 yesterday, and I've been writing a book to her. Basically, it's a big stream of consciousness journal that started, when she was just a year old or less than a year old. And in it, so much is just encouraging her to look at the whole of the planet. We talk about Mother Earth all the time and how she's connected to waters and rocks and the mountains and the volcanoes and the trees and things that children learn. And I think in a way, if we can hone in a vocabulary that a child can understand, like they say, your subconscious mind will catch it. If you could explain it to a 5-year-old, then you can explain it to anyone. So I just wanted to put that in here as something that's very exciting for me, and it's challenging, and yet, wow, it hones in those seeds and that vocabulary of how to look at the world for the good of the whole. And I'm complete. Thanks, Julie, for letting me pop that in.
Any last few seconds that somebody really wants to bring in before we come to a close? Shelley's got that look on her face.
I want to just thank you, everyone, for joining us here. And, for me, it was just really simple that if you're quiet in that still point, the person actually gives you the clues that they're looking to hear in terms of sharing this out. But also just to understand here that we're here to like all this energy that we're talking about is looking to work collectively as we've been describing, and that this call specifically is a public call. And so the way that if you want to dive deeper is to become a mentoring steward of good of the whole, supporting this experience and vision and the various logistical ways we can work together in terms of supporting good of the whole and people living good of the whole. Yes, we need support for the organism, and we are talking about that more specifically on the other 3 or 4 Wednesday calls. So that's really important for all of you to know, because this is the public one. There's a lot more of this kind of sharing, but we want you to join and come together on those other calls, because that's where we really more strategize. So that's all I want to add, and I'm complete. Thank you. This has been an amazing call. Thank you.
Yes, I thought I was on mute. Thank you, Shelley. And thank you, everyone, for showing up today and being present and doing this in-gathering, information, informing with us all. So thank you so much. We need to do a yum or something. I need some suggestions, because I really don't have a good way to close this besides us coming back into our heart. We need a fun yum or something that's unique to this call. Any suggestions? Shelley.
I want to actually say, Julie, that like everything that everyone said today is about coming back to that still point. And so a beautiful way to end this call, at least for today, is to just feel this connective field in its point of singularity, which everyone has been expressing, is that fullness that people call emptiness, but it's so very full, and to feel that chalice. So just taking a minute for me today, just bringing us in, taking a breath, and feeling this whirling dervish within that's constantly moving in this sacred space of the heart. and allowing the energy, the power of the energy to infuse itself in our cellular structure, so that we get all excited and it wants to go out, but it's actually in the inflow of that breath. And we bring it back to gratitude, to this organism that's brought us together, to this living movement. So I just invite us into this beautiful moment of silence. And know that everything is just perfect from this place as we move forward into our day and looking to receive that information. So with that, I just want to thank you all, and I pass it back to you, Julie, and just really trust that this is absolutely divine. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley.
Yeah.
No words are necessary. So thank you all. We'll see you Mentoring Stewards back here next Wednesday. Mwah! For the public call, you're welcome every first Wednesday, and we'd love to have you join us as Mentoring Stewards. Bye for now.
Thank
See you on Monday. Come to our Global Heart Resonance if you want more of this juicy stuff. And please share out. We're ready for people to come and join us on that Monday call.
Bye for